Somewhere between "I'll be fine" and "I probably should have listened" lies 29 real moments that will make you genuinely grateful for your own common sense. Hold on to that feeling. Moment 1. Let's start simple just to ease you in. A city pool. Bright afternoon, a sign bolted to the diving board reads in large laminated sun-resistant letters, "No diving, shallow end." The kind of sign that has clearly been installed not as a suggestion but as a direct response to a previous incident that someone probably still has a scar from. A man approaches, reads the sign, turns to his friend and says, and this is a direct quote, "It can't be that shallow. Reader, it was that shallow. He found out using his knees, not his legs. His knees, because the dive was cut extremely short. The sign was not an opinion. It was a measurement. These are different things." Moment 2. A national park. Gorgeous, ancient, populated with signs that say things like "Do not feed the wildlife" and "Keep 50 feet from bison." A tourist approaches a bison, not quickly, not recklessly, but slowly, deliberately, camera extended, narrating a video for their social media story. The bison does what bison do when a primate invades their personal space. Absolutely nothing, right up until the exact moment it does a great deal. The tourist was fine. Their pride was not. The bison has done this before. The bison will do it again. The bison does not follow accounts. Moment 3. A hiking trail in the American Southwest. The trailhead sign reads, "Bring at least 1 liter of water per hour of hiking. Trail length, 6 hours." A group of 4 arrives with a single shared bottle of water, 2 of which had already been partially consumed in the parking lot. When a ranger stops them at the quarter-mile mark, one of the group members explains that they don't really drink that much water. The human body is 70% water. This is not a lifestyle preference. This is a structural requirement. The ranger turned them around. The sun did not care about their philosophy. Moment 4. A grocery store self-checkout lane. The machine says, in a patient-recorded voice, "Please place item in the bagging area." The customer does not place the item in the bagging area. The machine repeats the request. The customer stares at the machine. The machine asks again. The customer leans toward the screen and says out loud to a machine, "I already did." The machine, which has weight sensors and therefore definitive proof, disagrees. An attendant arrives. The item was not in the bagging area. It had never been in the bagging area. It was being held in the customer's hand like a trophy. Be honest, you've seen this. You may have lived this. Moment 5. A restaurant. The waiter delivers a plate and says, calmly and with hospitality industry professionalism, "Careful, the plate is very hot." The customers. The waiter steps away. The customer immediately grabs the plate with both palms flat down. It was very hot. The waiter did not invent the temperature. The waiter was reporting a fact about the physical world. These are the moments that make you wonder if verbal warnings need to come with a written follow-up. Notarized. Moment 6. A wet floor sign. Yellow. Triangular. Unmissable. Standing directly in the center of a freshly mopped tile floor in a busy shopping mall. A teenager walking while looking at his phone walks directly into the sign, knocking it over, then slips on the wet floor that the sign had been protecting him from. This is almost poetic. The warning system became a hazard only after it was defeated by the person it was trying to protect. There is a metaphor here, and we do not have time to fully unpack it. Moment 7. Fireworks. A holiday. A residential backyard in a state where most consumer fireworks are legal, barely, if used responsibly. The packaging says, "Place on flat stable surface, light fuse, retire quickly." The homeowner places the firework on a slight incline, lights the fuse, and does not retire quickly because he is busy explaining to his relatives the physics of fireworks. The firework chose a different trajectory than intended. The explanation was cut short. Everyone was fine. The lawn chair was not. Moment 8. An online purchase. The product description reads in the second line of the listing, "Color may vary slightly from photos due to screen calibration differences." The customer purchases the item. The item arrives. The customer leaves a 1-star review explaining that the color was different from the photo. The review is 400 words long. The warning was 11 words. The math does not favor the reviewer. Moment 9. A gym, a treadmill. A placard attached to the console reads, "Please use the safety clip at all times." The safety clip is a small magnetic device that attaches to your clothing and disconnects from the machine if you fall, which immediately stops the belt. A man begins his run without the clip, confidently, because he has been using treadmills for years without incident. He has a very brief and intensely educational encounter with the back of the treadmill approximately 12 minutes into his run. He is sore. The safety clip is still attached to the console, waiting patiently, having never once let anyone down. And somehow we're still warming up. Moment 10. A beach. Clear signage reading, "Rip current warning, do not swim." Flags up. Lifeguard actively repeating the warning on a loudspeaker. A couple wades in anyway because, as they explained to the lifeguard who was already jogging toward the water, we're strong swimmers. Rip currents do not negotiate based on skill level. They are not competing with you. They are simply a physical force moving water in a direction. The lifeguard brought them back. The couple thanked him. The signs were still there when they left. The signs are always still there. Moment 11. A cooking video online. The recipe card, the video description, and the host themselves at the beginning of the video all say, "This dish contains extremely spicy peppers. Do not touch your face after handling." A comment with 4,000 likes reads, "Didn't believe the warning, touched my eye. Currently writing this from what I can only describe as a personal crisis." 47 people replied, "Same. The pepper did not intend harm. The pepper was just being a pepper. You chose to disrespect the pepper." Moment 12. A zoo. An exhibit clearly marked, "Do not tap the glass." A child taps the glass. The parent watches. The animal inside, a large monitor lizard, responds by launching itself at the glass with a velocity that causes everyone in the immediate area to take 3 steps backward simultaneously, like a choreographed jump scare. The child learns something that afternoon. The parent learned something too. The lizard frankly enjoyed the power. Moment 13. A warning label on a hair dryer that reads, "Do not use while sleeping." You might be tempted to laugh at this label and say it's overly obvious, and then you learn why it exists and you stop laughing, and you feel a complicated mix of emotions that ends with respect for the engineers who saw what happened and decided, "We must put this on the box." Some warnings are written in the past tense of someone else's very bad night. Moment 14. A theme park ride. The sign at the entrance says, "Must be at least 48 inches tall to ride." A parent attempts to board with a child who is visibly not 48 inches tall, argues with the ride operator for 4 minutes, requests a manager, argues with the manager for 6 minutes, and ultimately leaves with the same child at the same height, which has not changed during the conversation. The ride's engineering requirements did not attend the meeting. The laws of physics took no notes. Moment 15. A gas station pump with a label reading, "Turn off engine before fueling." A driver keeps the car running because they only need a little bit of gas and are in a hurry. The warning exists because fuel vapors are flammable regardless of quantity or schedule. Your commute timeline is not a variable in combustion chemistry. Nothing happened this time. The laws of physics tabled their response for a future date. Would you want to be at that gas station? Moment 16. An email from an IT department. "Do not click links from unknown senders. We will never ask for your password." 2 days later, same employee clicks a link, enters their password, replies to the IT department asking why their account has been locked. The IT department, reading this email with the quiet exhaustion of people who have read this email many times before, begins the password reset process without a word of judgment. They have been there before. They will be there again. They have accepted their role in the universe. Moment 17. A ladder. A warning sticker. "Do not stand on top rung." A man stands on the top rung because he is, in his own words, just a little bit short of where he needs to be. He is short of where he needs to be because the ladder is not tall enough, not because the top rung has been withholding its full potential. The top rung is not the solution. The top rung is the warning. He falls, he lands. He is fine, he is sore, he buys the same size ladder the following week. Moment 18. This next one genuinely defies explanation. A microwave with a sign taped inside it by a shared office kitchen that reads, "Do not microwave fish." Written by hand, laminated, posted at eye level. Someone microwaves fish the following Tuesday. They do this not out of malice, but out of what can only be described as a complete philosophical rejection of community living. The smell reaches 3 floors. People who work remotely somehow find out. The sign remains. The fish person is never identified. They are among us still. Moment 19. A trail in a forest preserve. Sign closed after dark. Coyotes active. A jogger enters at dusk, exits with a story that begins with, "So there were more coyotes than I expected." The coyotes had not read the sign either, to be fair. But the coyotes were on their own property. The jogger was the trespasser who ignored the door policy. This is an important distinction that the coyotes understood intuitively. Moment 20. A rental agreement for a storage unit that includes, in the section the customer signed, a line reading, "Do not store perishable food items." 6 months later, the storage facility is notified by neighboring unit holders about an odor. The unit is opened. There are 63 cans of something that used to be food and has since become something science would find interesting. The renter, when contacted, says, "I thought they meant fresh food." The cans had been there longer than some houseplants live. This is a category of denial. Moment 21. A bottle of prescription medication with a label that reads, "Take with food." The patient does not take it with food because they are not hungry right now. The medication's chemistry is not linked to appetite. It does not wait for you to be hungry. It begins doing its job regardless. The nausea that follows is the medication explaining, through the only channel still available to it, that it asked nicely first. Moment 22. An airplane. A flight attendant, live in front of all passengers demonstrating the seatbelt. The screen is showing the same demonstration. The safety card is in the seat pocket. A passenger who did not listen cannot figure out how to open the seatbelt after landing. They are stuck in their seat for 40 seconds while other passengers exit calmly around them. 40 seconds. The instructions were delivered 3 times, in 2 formats, before the flight even reached cruising altitude. This is not a knowledge gap. This is an attention budget problem. Moment 23. A public pool with a sign reading "Shower before entering pool." A man walks past the shower, past the sign, directly into the pool. A lifeguard calls out. The man says, and this is important, "I showered this morning." The pool is not a continuation of this morning's shower. The sign is asking about the last 30 seconds of your life, not the last 8 hours. These are different time horizons. The pool water silently had opinions. Moment 24. A warning printed directly on a travel iron. Do not iron clothes while wearing them. You want to dismiss this. You want to say no one has ever done this. You would be wrong. The iron operates at temperatures that do not distinguish between fabric hanging in the air and fabric in contact with skin. This label exists because someone, somewhere in a hurry, decided that efficiency meant combining 2 steps into one catastrophic one. We do not know their name. We honor their contribution to consumer product safety law. Moment 25. Now we're entering a different atmosphere. A contractor is hired to renovate a kitchen. Before work begins, the homeowner is told, "Do not use this wall outlet while we're rewiring. It is live and unpredictable." The homeowner plugs in their blender the next morning. The blender does not blend. The kitchen briefly experiences a light show it was not designed for. The electrician arrives, surveys the scene, takes a photograph for documentation purposes, and says nothing. Sometimes documentation is all you have. Moment 26. A wildlife sanctuary posts a sign at its entrance that reads, "Do not bring outside food. Animals are on medical diets." A visitor brings a bag of snack mix. They feed the snack mix to an animal that is on a medically supervised diet for a specific condition that the snack mix directly aggravates. The animal gets sick. The visitor, when approached by a staff member, says, "I didn't think a little bit would matter." There is a sentence that has caused more damage throughout human history than perhaps any other. A little bit always matters. The animal recovers. The visitor never returns. The sign stays. Moment 27. A construction site with a sign reading "Hard hat required beyond this point." A visitor walks past the sign without a hard hat. A supervisor immediately stops them and hands them a hard hat. The visitor puts the hard hat on backwards. The supervisor says nothing for a moment that lasts slightly too long. The hat is corrected. They continue. Something falls from the floor above, bounces near where they were standing, and comes to rest 2 feet away. The hard hat, now facing forward, says nothing. It doesn't need to. Moment 28. We are approaching the summit. A social media post circulates in which a person explains that they ignored their doctor's explicit written instructions not to mix 2 specific medications with alcohol. They mixed them with alcohol. They are now in a waiting room describing the experience in real time in a thread that has accumulated thousands of replies, all of which are some variation of "the doctor said," though. The doctor said. The prescription insert said. The pharmacist confirmed. 3 separate warnings, 3 separate professionals, 1 very long waiting room thread. Be honest, at what point does this stop being a mistake and start being a commitment? Moment 29, and here we are. The final one, the peak. A man purchases a used boat. The seller includes written documentation, a verbal warning in front of witnesses, and a signed addendum stating, "Do not take this vessel more than 1 mile offshore. The bilge pump requires repair and the vessel will take on water beyond that distance." The man takes the boat 2 miles offshore on day 1. He calls the Coast Guard from 2 miles offshore. The Coast Guard arrives. The boat is sinking. When asked why he went beyond the stated limit, the man says, "And this is the part that will stay with you. I wanted to see if it was really that bad." It was really that bad. It was in fact exactly as bad as the written warning, the verbal warning, the signed addendum, and basic maritime physics had all independently agreed it would be. The Coast Guard rescues him. The boat does not get rescued. Somewhere, a bilge pump that was never repaired rests at the bottom of a body of water, having been completely correct the entire time. 29 moments. 29 warnings. 29 opportunities for human beings to pause, process, and choose a different outcome. And 29 times, the warning lost. What's remarkable isn't that people ignore warnings, it's the confidence with which they do it. There is a particular kind of certainty that comes from never having been immediately and severely wrong before, and it turns out that certainty is extremely fragile once reality shows up. The signs were never the problem, the signs were always trying to help. So here's the question. Which of these 29 do you think was the worst? Drop your ranking in the comments, and if you've personally witnessed something that belongs on this list, now is the time to share it, because something tells me the world has not run out of material. If this video made you feel slightly better about your own decision making, even just a little, consider dropping a like and subscribing, because there is unfortunately no shortage of future content.